Hey guys, it's BBR founder and head coach D here, and today I want to talk to you about intermittent fasting and weight loss. Who's it for? Who's it not for? Should you do it for weight loss? Fasting is very popular right now, so I'm going to share with you objectively the pros and cons, and then my 2 cents at the end around who I recommend it for and who I really do not recommend it for. So hopefully you can make the best decision around whether you want to try it or not. So first off, what is fasting? Intermittent fasting is essentially when we eat in a time-restricted window. So one of the more popular protocols for this is called the 16-8 protocol, where you fast for 16 hours and then eat during an 8-hour window. Maybe that is skipping breakfast and you eat from noon to 8 p.m., or maybe you skip dinner and eat from the morning through the late afternoon. There is some evidence that fasting might help control blood sugar, control blood lipids, have some anti-aging benefits, and potentially even reduce the risk of heart disease. Some women find that it helps them reduce bloating and just helps them have more energy too. But today, again, I just want to talk about it in the context of weight loss. So when it comes to weight loss, we have to be in a calorie deficit. So we have to be eating fewer calories than we are consistently burning. So every day our body uses energy just to do its daily activities, to breathe, to walk, to go to work, to drink water, to digest, add on top of that exercise. When we're consistently eating less than that amount, our body is going to pull from our fat or sometimes our muscle for energy. So when we're consistently eating in what's called a calorie deficit, that is when we lose weight. So if you're only eating twice a day, if you're only eating within an 8-hour window, you might be in a calorie deficit. You might be eating fewer calories than you're burning. In that case, you may be losing weight. On the contrary, some people might actually be eating more when they're intermittent fasting. A lot of women that I see, they've been fasting and then they're so hungry that they end up binge eating during the fasting window. And they end up eating in a calorie surplus and then not seeing any weight loss. So fasting might work for weight loss if you were in a calorie deficit. Research has shown that fasting inherently is not superior to being in a calorie deficit. So calories do still matter when it comes to weight loss. The other thing to remember is your protein intake. So when you're in a calorie deficit, your body is going to either pull from fat or muscle stores for energy. And if you've been working out, if you're in the gym, you're building muscle, you're getting lean, you don't want to be breaking down your muscle, right? You want to be only losing body fat. That's how you get that toned appearance, by retaining your lean muscle. So you need to be ensuring that you're eating enough protein. Eating enough protein is going to make sure that your body breaks down only the fat and retains that lean muscle mass. So if you are intermittent fasting, a lot of women may find that they're unable to meet their protein intake. If you are in a place where you understand nutrition, you understand how many calories you need, you understand the basic concept of a calorie deficit, you're hitting your protein targets consistently, then fasting might be an eating style that you might want to try. I would say try it out, see how your body feels, see how you respond to it. If you feel like you have a healthy relationship with food, you're not kind of in that diet binge roller coaster, and fasting doesn't trigger binge eating for you, then it might be something you might be able to try. If you're finding that fasting is triggering binge eating, feeling totally out of control around food, kind of like, oh my God, I've been fasting, I'm so hungry, give me all the food, and you're just kind of if you're feeling a little out of control with it, then it's triggering the binging, then that's a red flag. And I would encourage you to not do fasting and utilize a different approach. Fasting is not required for weight loss. Some people find that it's an easier way to implement a calorie deficit, but again, it's definitely not required. And for many people, it's just not sustainable with your lifestyle. If you're going out to eat with friends, if you have a family, if you're traveling, it's hard to adhere to an intermittent fast. So I would also look at how realistic is it for you to implement in your lifestyle. Okay, so the other thing to remember is that while fasting can be one way to induce a calorie deficit, fasting is not a substitute for building healthy lifestyle habits. So if you're fasting, but you're still eating a lot of processed food, you're stress eating, you're emotional eating, this is kind of a Band-Aid on a deeper issue, right? So the way I see it is you need to make sure that you have a base of good, healthy habits built, and then can apply fasting as a tool on top of that. So once you have a base of healthy habits, such as cooking your own meals, eating regular balanced meals regularly, maybe tracking your nutrition, understanding the basics of how much food your body needs, exercising regularly, being able to eat out without overeating or binge eating, preventing stress and emotional eating. Once you have those habits built, those fundamental habits, then intermittent fasting is something you can try as a tool to help to help see if it makes you feel better. Because you also have to think about it, right? What's going to happen when you stop fasting? A lot of people, when they stop fasting, they go back to eating normally. They haven't built any of these fundamental healthy habits, and so they end up regaining the weight. So if you're new to diet and exercise, if you're new to your weight loss journey, it kind of looks like fasting is this magic bullet. And again, it's really popular right now. But just remember, it's not a substitute for healthy habits. It's not a substitute for actually understanding nutrition. The other thing to remember is that a lot of the research on fasting is relatively new. There isn't too much research done on the long-term sustainability and being able to measure if people are actually keeping the weight off with fasting. So if you're in a place where you have a good relationship with food, you have these habits built, try it out, see how you feel. Do you have more energy? Are you feeling good? And also pay attention to your reproductive cycle, your period. Fasting can affect the female reproductive cycle negatively. So if you're experiencing any issues with your period, I would stop fasting and consult a medical professional. I would also not recommend fasting for women who are pregnant. If you're chronically stressed, fasting may put more stress on your body. If you're not sleeping well, I would not recommend fasting. And if you have a history of disordered eating, fasting might not be a good, I would definitely not recommend fasting, as it can trigger disordered eating. Anecdotally, I would like to share also my own experience with fasting. So I have tried implementing intermittent fasting in my lifestyle for about 2 weeks at a time. And I found that it makes my anxiety worse. So I struggle with anxiety. I find that when I fast in the mornings and I haven't eaten, I experience higher symptoms of anxiety. And once I eat, I usually break my fast with oatmeal, some protein powder, sometimes some eggs. I find that when I do that, my anxiety really dissipates. So anecdotally for me, fasting has not worked, but I have tried it. But for many women, it can. So long story short, calories matter. Make sure you have a base of healthy habits first. Once you have that, if you have a good relationship with food, it's not triggering binge eating, then fasting might be a protocol you may wish to try to see how you feel. So those are my 2 cents on fasting. Let me know if you have tried fasting. I would love to know. I would love to hear from you. Pop it in the comments below and ask me your other questions on fasting as well in the comments.